Imagine this. You dedicate, say, 50 years of your life to your passion, you build this whole legacy, and then bam, you're incredibly vulnerable, maybe in the hospital, and you face losing everything. Your home, your studio, your entire life's work.
Yeah.
What happens when the system, the courts, the very system meant to protect you, just fails? Fails to see you, fails to hear you, especially when you literally can't defend yourself.
It's a nightmare scenario.
Well, today, we're diving deep into a story that's truly extraordinary, but also deeply unsettling. It's the story of Mark Saltz. He's a 76-year-old fine artist, nationally recognized. And the core issue here is just, wow. Mr. Saltz was forcibly evicted from his home and studio, a place he lived and worked in for over 35 years.
Right.
And this happened while he was in the hospital. It set off this awful chain reaction, putting his lifetime of art at huge risk and, well, exposing some alleged pretty serious systemic failures in the justice system.
And that's what we're going to unpack in this deep dive. We'll look at the layers, alleged ADA violations, wrongful eviction, and also a really fascinating angle on how art is actually valued.
Yeah.
It's often not what you think, far beyond those big auction houses.
Interesting.
Plus, we'll take a critical look at New York City marshals, their power, the incentives. It's often overlooked, but really important here.
It's complex, yeah, but it tells you a lot about how these systems are supposed to work and, well, how they allegedly break down.
Okay, let's unpack this.
Yeah.
So Mark Saltz, he isn't just, some random person. We're talking about a fine artist with a 50-year career.
Right.
Nationally recognized, prestigious grants. His work's been in museums like the Brooklyn Museum even.
Yeah.
He taught for years at top schools like Parsons School of Design, LaGuardia Community College.
Decades of teaching, yeah.
So this place wasn't just an apartment. It was his life, his studio, everything built up over decades.
And that context makes the eviction itself just so much worse. In 2024, he gets evicted from 118 West 27th Street. Home and studio for over 35 years.
35. And the kicker, as you said, it happened while he was hospitalized. 3 weeks, January 15th to 18th, roughly, with a life-threatening skin infection. He was literally, fighting for his life at that moment.
It's hard to even fathom, and what makes it crazier is that this eviction seems to fly right in the face of a previous court ruling, doesn't it?
Exactly. Just 6 months before, August 2023, a judge had specifically declined the eviction.
Declined it.
Yeah, said the alleged violations of the stipulation were minor.
Yeah.
And that judge actually considered Mr. Saltz's age, his decades as a tenant, and the fact, this is key, he had a perfect record, never missed a single rent payment.
Never missed rent in 35 years. So that initial ruling seemed pretty reasonable, but then things took a really dark turn while he was hospitalized. What happened?
Well, this is where it gets deeply concerning.
Mm-hmm.
While Mr. Saltz was medically out of it, couldn't communicate, couldn't defend himself, the opposing counsel allegedly filed the eviction motion based on something completely false.
Okay.
They claimed he had admitted himself to a drug rehabilitation facility.
What? But he was in the hospital for a skin infection.
Precisely. And even though actual hospital documents, comprehensive proof, were submitted showing his real life-threatening condition, the court apparently dismissed them on a technicality.
A technicality.
I said they were 2 days too late. But here's the thing. Mr. Saltz was never even told there was a deadline while he was lying incapacitated in a hospital bed.
How could he be?
Right. So this eviction, given everything, it's been called a conscience-shocking deprivation of rights, a gross disregard for his basic procedural rights. It's just the vulnerability. Someone legally incapacitated, fighting for their life, losing their home based on false claims and technicalities, with no chance to be heard. It's, conscience-shocking feels right.
And it wasn't just about the documents arriving late, was it? There were issues with Mr. Saltz actually participating in the court process even before the hospitalization. Tell us about that.
Right. So Mr. Saltz has some, observable challenges. He has difficulty hearing clearly, needs his glasses to see properly. He's fully mobile, cognitively fine, but hearing and sight are issues.
Okay.
And throughout the whole 5-year case, he apparently had to repeatedly ask the plaintiff's lawyer to repeat questions, often saying things like the courtroom acoustics, the echoes, made it hard.
So these weren't hidden issues. They were pretty clear in court over a long period. How did that affect his ability to actually, follow what was going on and defend himself?
Well, that brings us to a really critical point. At one stage, he specifically asked the judge for real-time captioning.
Okay, like subtitles on a screen.
Exactly. That's a pretty standard accommodation under the Americans with Disabilities Act, the ADA Title II.
Yeah.
It's meant to guarantee equal access to public services, like courts.
Mm-hmm.
The request was denied. The judge just said he'd speak up. That's it. No actual accommodation provided.
Just speak up. That doesn't sound like an accommodation.
Not really, no. And this is being cited explicitly as a violation, not just AD, but also New York City human rights law, and even the 14th Amendment's Due Process Clause, the basic right to fundamental fairness, which includes being able to understand and participate. It's a fundamental breakdown.
And it gets even uglier, doesn't it? There's this allegation of systemic judicial misconduct, specifically about how his hearing difficulty was treated in court.
Yeah, this is particularly egregious. Opposing counsel allegedly called Mr. Saltz a head faker in open court.
A head faker, mocking his hearing problem.
Apparently so. And the judge reportedly did nothing, didn't intervene.
Wow.
That creates what's being called a hostile courtroom environment. Judges have a fundamental duty to maintain decorum, protect people from harassment. And this denial of accommodation, it wasn't a one-off. It was part of a consistent 3-year pattern of saying no.
3 years.
Which effectively stopped Mr. Saltz from understanding key parts of the case, violating his basic right to be heard. The ADA isn't optional, you know. It requires effective communication. And when a judge doesn't step in against that kind of mockery, it sends a chilling message about whose rights actually count in that room.
So, okay, let's connect the dots here. What does all this mean for his fundamental rights? And, frankly, for the legitimacy of the whole legal process in this case?
Well, it's crucial to bring in a key legal standard. When you're giving up a constitutional right, like agreeing to something in court, the Supreme Court case, Brady v. United States, says you have to do it intelligently.
Intelligently, meaning?
Meaning you fully understood what you were signing, what you were agreeing to, no coercion, no diminished capacity.
Yeah.
And in Mr. Saltz's case, the argument is that this coerced stipulation agreement he signed failed that test.
Because of the hospitalization.
It's exactly. His recent medical incapacitation further undermined his decision-making capacity. Think about it. Recent hospitalization, ongoing medical fragility, emotional stress. It made rational evaluation basically impossible. So the agreement he was pressured into signing is potentially legally defective.
And then there's the sheer arbitrariness of the decisions. You mentioned the first judge declined eviction.
Right.
Then a different judge reversed that decision just 6 months later,
Right.
using the exact same evidence the first judge had already looked at and essentially dismissed.
Yes. That kind of inconsistency is a huge red flag. It suggests potential targeting based on improper considerations.
Like what?
Well, including alleged bias against Mr. Saltz because of his observable impairments, his age. This kind of arbitrary and capricious conduct, just changing decisions without a clear, logical reason based on new facts, violates basic due process. It also strengthens what are called equal protection claims under a class of one theory. That comes from a case called Village of Willowbrook v. Olex.
A class of one.
It basically means alleging you were singled out for intentionally different, unfair treatment compared to others in a similar situation for no rational reason. It's not just saying it was unfair. It's saying I was targeted.
Okay.
And when you see this pattern, the hostility, the denied accommodations, the arbitrary reversal happening over 3 years, with everyone fully aware of Mr. Saltz's difficulties, it points towards deliberate indifference. That's a legal term for a really callous disregard for someone's rights.
Deliberate indifference. That sounds serious.
It is, and it's why there's believed to be a high likelihood of success for his legal claims, potentially leading to significant damages, both compensatory and punitive.
Okay, let's shift focus slightly to his life's work as art. What happened to it after the eviction?
It's heartbreaking, really. Over 250 large-scale artworks representing 5 decades of his creative life were removed, and they were placed under what are described as predatory storage terms.
Predatory, meaning high fees.
Exactly. Escalating fees that mean the collection is still at risk of being permanently destroyed or sold off. Now, there was a valuation done recently, June 2025, that put the collections worth somewhere between $75,000 and $250,000. But we're told its actual artistic and cultural value is way, way higher.
75K to 250K versus far greater. That brings up a really interesting point you touched on earlier, how art is really valued, especially outside of auctions.
Right. And this is where we hit what's honestly the biggest myth in the art world.
Okay, what's the myth?
That you absolutely need a public auction record to use art as collateral for a serious loan.
So if it hasn't sold at Sotheby's for millions, it's not bankable.
That's the common misconception. But it's a fundamental misunderstanding of how the art finance industry operates. It's just flat out wrong.
And you said this industry is huge.
Massive. The art-backed lending market, estimated at somewhere between $29 billion and $34 billion in 2023.
Billion. With a B.
with a B. We're talking major banks. Bank of America, BNY Mellon, even the big auction houses like Christie's and Sotheby's. They have their own separate financial services divisions that do exactly this kind of lending. It's a huge, often hidden part of the financial world.
So if auction prices aren't the main thing, how do these banks and lenders value art for these big loans? What's the actual process?
It's governed by a really strict professional framework. It's called USPAP, the Uniform Standards of Professional Appraisal Practice.
US POF. Okay.
Think of it like the gap for accounting, but for appraisals. It sets rigorous guidelines for independent, objective valuation. And USPAP defines an appraisal as developing an opinion of value. Notice, no mention of auctions being required.
An opinion of value. No.
All right. And the IRS, for things like donations or estate taxes, uses a similar concept. Fair market value. That's the price a willing buyer and seller would agree on, neither being forced, both knowing all the relevant facts, again, not tied explicitly to an auction. It's a much broader, more analytical approach.
So the appraiser isn't just looking up past auction results. You said it's more like being a detective.
Exactly. That's a great way to put it. They gather clues. They analyze data from gallery sales. It's the retail price for new work. They look at private sales. That's a multi-billion-dollar market itself, totally separate from auctions.
Right. Things sold directly between collectors or through dealers.
Precisely. They assess the artist's entire career, their reputation, museum holdings, grants, teaching history, critical reviews. They find comparable works by similar artists. Auctions become just one data point among many, often not even the most important one. They're definitely not the be-all and end-all.
Okay, so let's bring it back to Mark Saltz. His collection is a perfect case study for this, you said.
Absolutely perfect. Because his highest public auction sale ever was, wait for it, $210.
$210. That sounds like the opposite of bankable.
Based on the myth, yes. But look deeper. Documented gallery prices, the price the gallery sells his work for, just for 22 of his pieces, showed a completely different picture of value, much, much higher. So when you apply those professional USP appraisal standards, considering his entire career, the museum holdings, the grants, everything, the total value for his entire collection of over 250 works comes out to a, well, staggering $4.7 million.
Wow. From $210 at auction to $4.7 million appraised value. That's a huge difference. Is that $4.7 million figure really solid?
It's described as rock solid, defensible, and crucially bankable because it's based on verifiable facts.
Okay, break that down. What are those verifiable facts supporting nearly $5 million for an artist without that big auction track record?
Well, number one, representation by a major New York City gallery. That establishes a primary market price.
Got it.
Number two, work held in museum collections, like the Brooklyn Museum. That's significant validation.
Definitely.
Three, prestigious grants from bodies like the National Endowment for the Arts, NEA, again, serious tier recognition. And four, that 45-year teaching career at a world-class institution like Parsons. It all builds a picture of a significant established artist whose work has demonstrable value far beyond the often fickle auction market.
So this true non-auction value means his collection, valued at $4.7 million, could realistically be used as collateral.
Conservatively, yes. Lenders typically offer a loan-to-value ratio, maybe 40, 70%. So on a $4.7 million collection, he could potentially secure a loan for over $2.3 million.
That's incredible. And how do lenders protect themselves when dealing with art instead of, say, real estate?
They have procedures. They only lend a fraction of the value. As I said, they usually require annual reappraisals to track the value. And they insist on professional storage and insurance for the artwork. It's a sophisticated system. And understanding this real valuation model is crucial. It's what underpins the future of art finance. Things like tokenizing art, creating digital shares.
Right, fractional ownership.
Exactly. Or using art in DeFi, decentralized finance lending. It all relies on understanding this non-auction value. It really is a hidden economy.
Mark's story also shines a light, though, on another part of the system many New Yorkers probably don't think much about: the city marshals.
Yeah, a really critical piece here.
And first, it's important to clarify, they are not police officers, right?
Correct. They are unsalaried civilians appointed by the mayor for 5-year terms. Their job is basically to be the enforcement arm for the civil courts, handling things like evictions and seizing assets to satisfy judgments.
Unsalaried. So how do they get paid?
That's the crucial detail, the lucrative detail, as it's been called. Marshals work purely on commission. They keep 5% of all the money they collect.
5% of everything they seize or collect for a creditor.
Yes. So there's this powerful financial incentive built into the system. Combine that incentive with the immense power they have entering homes, seizing property, and, well, it's led to some pretty serious problems.
A direct financial incentive to essentially enforce judgments and evictions as much and as quickly as possible.
You can see how that might create pressure, yeah. It sounds a bit like a bounty system within the civil courts.
And there's data suggesting this isn't just a theoretical problem. The city's own watchdog, the Department of Investigation, the DOI, found some pretty startling things.
Startling is the word. The DOI reported that 11 out of NYC's only 28 city marshals.
Only 28 for the whole city.
Yeah, it's a small group. But 11 of them, that's nearly 40%, have faced disciplinary charges just since 2019.
40%, wow.
So it suggests a bigger, more systemic problem, not just, one or two bad apples acting out.
And is it easy to find out what they were disciplined for?
That's another issue. There's a concerning lack of public transparency. The names of disciplined marshals and the specifics of their misconduct often aren't publicly released.
So nearly half have faced charges, but we don't know who or exactly why.
Largely, no. Which is worrying when you consider the DOI also got over 550 complaints about marshals directly from the public during that same period. That's over 100 complaints a year from citizens.
What kind of misconduct are we talking about in these cases?
Well, some concrete examples have emerged. Marshals allegedly trying to collect debts or enforce judgments outside New York City, where they have absolutely zero jurisdiction.
They can't do that.
No authority whatsoever outside the 5 boroughs. There was Marshal Vadim Barbarovich. He resigned after the DOI found he was doing just that. And then there's Marshal Stephen Beagle. He's currently being sued.
For what?
For allegedly seizing nearly $1 million from a bank account located out of state in Arizona. The lawsuit claims this seizure basically destroyed the plaintiff's business.
$1 million from Arizona by a NYC marshal.
Allegedly. The lawsuit calls his actions a brazen and intentional violation of his duties and a knowing abuse of power. It highlights the potential for overreach.
And how does this marshal issue impact regular tenants, like people facing eviction?
Well, the Legal Aid Society, which represents many low-income tenants, has raised a lot of complaints about one specific thing: tenants not getting their proper notice.
The notice before an eviction?
Yeah, legally, they're supposed to get a 14-day written notice before a marshal can physically evict them. But Legal Aid says they frequently hear from tenants who claim they never got that notice or got it way too late. Families are left scrambling with no time to get legal help or figure out where to go.
That 14-day window is critical.
Absolutely. And the DOI actually tried to address this notice issue, this lack of transparency, with an internet portal. The idea was landlords would upload the notice, tenants could get alerts.
Sound like a good idea. Did it work?
Well, according to the DOI commissioner herself, Jocelyn Straber, it's not working the way we would like it to be.
So the fix isn't fixing things. Okay, let's recap this marshal situation. You've got a small group, maybe 28 people.
Right.
With the power to take your home, take your property. They work on a potentially powerful profit motive, that 5% commission. A huge chunk of them, nearly 40%, have faced disciplinary action recently, but the details are mostly kept secret.
Yeah, lack of transparency.
And the main tool designed to help tenants know an eviction is coming isn't working properly. That paints a pretty concerning picture of accountability, doesn't it?
It really does. Power, profit motive, lack of transparency, alleged misconduct. It's a worrying mix.
So given all these alleged injustices, the eviction, the ADA issues, the valuation problems, the marshal concerns what's actually being done now, what kind of relief is Mark Salt seeking?
He's actively fighting back, pursuing legal claims for the ADA violations, the New York City human rights law violations, the due process violations. A huge part of it is trying to protect and get back his artworks, obviously. He's seeking compensation for all the damages, economic, reputational, emotional, and importantly, exploring federal injunctive relief.
Injunctive relief, that's like an emergency court order.
Exactly. It's asking a federal judge to step in quickly and issue an order to prevent something irreversible from happening in this case, potentially stopping the destruction or sale of his life's work while the main lawsuit proceeds.
That sounds like a massive legal effort. You called it a full court press earlier.
It really is. It involves multiple actions happening at once. There's a federal civil rights lawsuit. There's a separate complaint filed with the city's Human Rights Commission. There's a formal complaint lodged about the judge's conduct. And even a malpractice action against his former lawyer.
Wow. Attacking the problem from every angle.
Pretty much. A full court press, like you said. And given the evidence laid out, the feeling is these claims have a high likelihood of success.
Let's talk damages. What kind of numbers are we looking at for the alleged harm caused?
Well, they've broken it down. The estimated economic damages, that's the direct financial hit, are around $175,000. That covers losing his home and studio, alternative living costs, medical bills that piled up.
Okay, tangible losses.
Right. Then there are the non-economic damages. That's for the pain, the suffering, the trauma, the public humiliation of it all. That's estimated at a minimum of $300,000.
Minimum $300K for the human cost.
Yeah. And on top of that, they're seeking punitive damages of $500,000.
Punitive damages, that's meant to punish, right? Not just compensate.
Exactly. Punitive damages are aimed at punishing the defendant, in this case, the system, potentially for that deliberate indifference, that callous disregard for his rights we talked about. And crucially, to deter this kind of thing from happening to anyone else in the future.
So it's not just about the money for Mr. Saltz.
No, the goal here goes way beyond financial compensation. It's about forcing real lasting change in the system.
How so? What kind of changes are being demanded?
The lawsuit is demanding concrete reforms. Things like mandatory ADA training for all court personnel, from judges down to clerks. Equipping every courtroom with modern accessibility technology like reliable real-time captioning.
Things that should probably be standard already.
You'd think so.
Yeah.
They're also calling for an independent watchdog specifically to handle disability access issues in the courts.
Yeah.
And demanding public reports on these issues so problems can't hide anymore.
Bringing transparency.
Exactly. Because, as the Supreme Court itself has said many times, access to the courts is a fundamental right. It's not a privilege you earn. And when that access gets denied because of a disability or because of alleged misconduct or indifference, the entire system of justice starts to fray. Not just for that one person, but for everyone.
It's an incredible story, really. Mark Saltz, this nationally recognized artist, facing what looks like a cascade of systemic failures, wrongful eviction while critically ill, alleged denial of basic ADA rights in court. And through his story, we get these surprising truths about how art is really valued, that hidden multi-billion-dollar finance world. Plus, a troubling look at the power and incentives of city marshals. It's a fight for personal justice, absolutely, but also for broader systemic accountability.
Yeah, and this deep dive, it really forces us, I think, to look hard at our own justice system. Is it truly living up to that promise of justice for all? Are the safeguards really working?
Right.
And that art valuation piece. If so much of an artwork's real value can be hidden from the common view, just ignored because people only look at auctions. It makes you wonder, doesn't it? What other assets, what other truths are out there that we as a society are systematically getting wrong, simply because we're not looking in the right places or maybe not asking the right questions?
That's a powerful thought to end on. How do we build a system, whether it's in the courts or in how we value things, where every single voice can actually be fully and fairly heard? How do we make sure that justice is never, ever deaf?